Hi guys, welcome back, and this time around I'm bringing you the HIDIZS MS2 Pro. This is HIDIZ's latest IEM, a 1+1 hybrid, basically a sequel to the famous MS2. And I say famous because those that were brave enough to have tried it were able to see that the MS2 was definitely one of those IEMs that went very much under the radar. I'm reporting back now to 2020, 2021, so it's an IEM from a from the dark ages of almost of IEMs. Anyway, the HIDIZS, the MS2 Pro, will have a limited time deal initially of $69, and then the suggested retail price will go up to $99. It will be available on Amazon UK, Amazon US, Amazon Canada, Amazon France as well. But initially the price that you can get it for is $69. It's available in three colors: a black, an orange, and a blue. And as I was saying, this is the continuation or an update on the original MS2, which I've got here. In my opinion, a substantial update. A lot of the magic of the original MS2 was maintained, but they've updated it very nicely. Box, simple, understated, nothing fancy here. Open it up. Obviously inside comes the stuff which I've already taken out. The IEMs came over there. It's got this carrying pouch, which it was honestly the only thing that truly disappointed me. Why? And I'll show it to you in a second. Because the original MS2 had this case. Okay, fair enough, not as pocketable as a new one, but this is a proper case, you know, really nice, looks the business. And I wish honestly the MS2 did bring the same sort of case. It brings some tips that, although they come in a very let's say basic way of holding them, they actually surprisingly worked quite well, so much so that I've actually left the black ones here on the MS2 Pro. And it brings some nozzles as well to tune the sound. As for the IEM itself, full metal shell, really nice. It's got a nice design to the faceplate, you know, substantial weight to them, although it's not substantial to the point that it becomes uncomfortable or anything. No, they fit really nicely. Inside, what do we find? We find a 10.2 millimeter driver, which I believe is somehow related to the original 10.2 millimeter driver of the MS2. It's a PU and PEK composite diaphragm with some DLC coating. It brings also a custom made balanced armature for the higher frequencies, or to help out in the higher frequencies. In terms of impedance, they talk about 17 ohms and 111 dBs of sensitivity. And yes, the MS2 Pro is not difficult to drive, and it gets plenty loud. Okay. As for what I was mentioning, the nozzles that it brings three sets of nozzles: a black, a white, and a red. And the way that they've let's say adjusted or named these, that the red ones are for you know, more, let's say, balanced type of a sound, good with basically everything, but pop and folk is probably the two genres that will be best performed with that nozzle. Then there's the white nozzle, which is what they call the high, and it's for classical music. It boosts the upper mids to mids, and then the treble, and then finally the low, which is the black O-ringed nozzle, which is more for rock and metal, by further bringing down a little bit that mids to upper mids. But anyway, I'll show it to you now in a second, and you'll understand better. So we have these three tuning nozzles. We have the metal shell. We have a decent enough cable. I mean, it's nothing special, but a decent enough cable. 4.4 termination. Okay, you can get it in 3.5 as well. Only really, like I was saying, it's the case that you know, is holding it back. So compared to the original MS2, I mean, just in the build quality, the improvement has been substantial. I mean, the MS2 used a plastic shell. It wasn't even a resin; it was a plastic shell. I mean, it didn't look bad. It looked fine. It looked okay, but it's nonetheless still a plastic shell. And we're now getting a metal shell. We get the adjustable nozzles. So definitely, there's been improvements done there. What can I say about the sound? And let me just quickly here put the graphs so I don't mislead anybody, because that's not my intention. Okay, as I was saying, the, the first thing that jumps to you when you listen to the MS2 Pro, like I did, is how good and engaging the bass is. And you would think, by looking at the graphs, which I will show you in a second, that, oh, okay, but with so much bass, then the mids and the upper mids and the treble might be a little bit on the lacking side and so on. And funny enough, no, they actually don't, because the way that they've actually tuned the BA has been a smart way, in my opinion, which is, it's not as evident that there's a BA like it was on the original MS2. On the original MS2, you could see that there was something else there helping out with the actual dynamic driver, and so there was some, let's say, I wouldn't say lack of coherence between the drivers, but you could notice that there was two sound sources. Over here, the coherence between the two drivers has been, very well done. It's flawless. It's just one driver. That's the perception you get, and that's all down to the way that the BA is actually being tuned. And be it in the white nozzle, which is the one that gives the most mids to upper mids and treble, or be it in the black nozzle, you always find that the balance that's struck is pretty good. Between the black and the red nozzle, I mean, there is a little bit of a difference, and you do notice that difference. Yes, the black nozzle will handle rock a little bit better, because that area there of the mids to upper mids doesn't, or can be pushed more without reaching a point of maybe start shouting. Although, to be honest, I never really found the MS2 to have any difficulty with scaling, and scaling well, by the way. And so I actually ended up leaving it with the red nozzle for the majority of the time, because that was the one that actually just satisfied me the most. It's the nozzle that performs best with the music I like listening to, be it EDM, be it some classical jazz, whatever, and I just left it there. So bass, as I was saying, really well executed. It's loads of punch, it's clean, it's impactful, something which the original one also did pretty well. Mids, in my opinion, are really good. I mean, there's truthfully nothing that can be faulted. It's a warmish type of mid-range presentation, with the exception of the white nozzle, which gives it a little bit more forwardness. Yes, so maybe for those that want a little bit more detail, I would suggest that nozzle. But the mids are really well done, and they perfectly match the bass and the mids. There's no bleeding, there's no overpowering, there's nothing. They really are matched really well. That point that I like always using as a reference for comparison, for example, with the red nozzle, the 100 hertz corresponds precisely to 2 kilohertz, and then the energy that's above and below those respective points is evenly matched. So the sound is really well matched. I mean, honestly, really well matched. And then the highs, as I mentioned, properly executed. There's no sibilance, there's no aggressiveness, although there's a small peak at like 4.5k. There's no sibilance, there's no aggressiveness, there's nothing. Actually, I think that the peak that appears is more peak, which is a product of maybe the rig not being 100% correct than necessarily something that exists there and is maybe even hampering the sound. That's not to say that maybe some of you that might be sensible to that particular part of the spectrum might not pick up on it. But overall, nothing to be said there. In terms of timbre and tonality, so in terms of the technicalities now, in terms of timbre and tonality, for me, spot on. I think with the red and with the black nozzle, the timbre and tonality is really good. With the white nozzle, the timbre and tonality is still good, although you start noticing that there's a little bit of a colored aspect to it. But I mean, guys, nitpick. That's a nitpick. Nothing to be pointed as a negative aspect, truthfully. Soundstage is more of a cozy type of a soundstage. It's the imaging as well. It's good, but it's not where it shines. And detail retrieval as well. It's decent, but it's not where it shines, apart from if you actually have the white nozzle, where there's a little bit more of a detail retrieval capability. Micro and macro details are a little bit superior. But where I have believed the MS2 shines, and this is where, I'm actually happy that more and more this is becoming, or seems to be becoming, a priority with brands, is they want their IEMs to, instead of being following a pretty graph and being, let's say, pleasant to the eye in terms of how they graph, They want an IEM to sound good, and this is a musical IEM. And so I'm very, very glad that the HIDIZS has been, taking care and been concerned with making this sound as musical instead of just being pretty for the graph. In terms of comparisons, and I don't really want to make comparisons extensively, but just for you guys to understand uh, where the MS2 Pro is and how I feel about the MS2 Pro, I've brought here some really interesting IEMs. I've got here two IEMs from ICO, the OH10 and the OH10S, which for me are still my reference 1+1s. I know that there's a lot of other IEMs that have since come out, and I haven't had the opportunity to unfortunately listen to some of them, but I still find, and I say this with a solid amount of confidence, in terms of a 1+1, I think very, very few IEMs are able to still outdo the OH10 and the OH10S. Very few IEMs, and when they do, or they are at substantially higher values. The price that these IEMs cost, which is between $170 and $200, but the sound that they give is absolutely incredible. Honestly, if you've never had the opportunity to listen to an OH10 or an OH10S, which is now the current model, you are missing out. You're definitely missing out. And when I listened to the MS2 Pro, I got a lot of that vibe, and I think that in itself already is saying a lot. That in itself already positions the MS2 Pro as something that is worthwhile in terms of a 1+1, because there's plenty of 1+1s out there, mind you, there's plenty of them. But anyway, let me continue here. Compared with the original, the MS2 Pro with the white nozzle, so the one that emphasizes slightly the mids and the upper mids and so on, and the MS2, they are the most similar, in that the MS2 will have a little bit more extension up top, but that little extension up top, which does help with the soundstage and the imaging, is also a little bit long-term fatiguing, and you can feel that coherence of the drivers is not as good as on the Pro. So yes, the MS2 is a phenomenal IEM. It was a phenomenal IEM back in the day. It still is a great IEM today, but compared to the Pro, it is been outdone. I've also got here the ISN H20, which I haven't spoken much about, and some of you that follow me and that know that I am a big fan of Pinon and ISN might be thinking, oh, but why hasn't he even reviewed it or anything? No, I actually did do the review, but it was taken down because of some copyright music issues, and I haven't placed it again or redone the review, to be honest with you. But the H20, also it's priced at around the $70 price point, more or less. It uses a bigger driver, a 13mm and a BA, and it's again an IEM that not only does it follow the oh, my apologies, not only is it IEM, the H20 is an IEM that follows the philosophy of Pinon and ISN, which is graphs are not supposed to be pretty. What is important is that the IEM is musical, and this is the perfect embodiment of that philosophy. The H20, if you look at the graph, you will say, oh my god, what a mess, and then when you listen to it, you could not be more impressed, honestly, or at least I could not have been more impressed. Great bass, the typical mids that you are expecting, and the reason why you look at the graph and then you listen to it and they don't match what what you're seeing is not matching what you hear, is because of the way that they've been able to match this dynamic driver with the BA. Flawless. And then a nice amount of extension as well up top to complement all of that nice bass that it's got. The H20 has kind of become my go-to 1+1 under $100. Like I said, it's an exceptional IEM that has the typical ISN Pinon house sound embodied in it, and now the MS2 Pro joins it as an alternative to the H20 in terms of what it is and what it can do and how it can play as a 1+1. Now, if you ask me, oh, but what about value and which is the better IEM and so on and so forth. Well, let's be realistic here. This has got a nice resin shell. The only thing where the H20 loses out to the MS2 Pro, honestly, isn't in the fact that it doesn't have the exchangeable nozzles. It brings a better cable, brings a nice selection of tips. You know, brings a case as well, which is decent. There's really not much that you can point in terms of negatives for the H20. The MS2 Pro does have those exchangeable nozzles, which will give maybe a little bit more versatility in terms of tuning options. But when compared like I did, you can't go wrong with either one of them, honestly. Be it the H20 or be it the MS2 Pro, two phenomenal IEMs. And the most interesting thing about them as well is, as I was saying earlier, is the fact that you listen to one or you listen to the other, and you get definite vibes of the ICO and of the OH10 or the 10S. And as I said, that's speaking leaps and bounds for the performance of one or the other. I mean, honestly, guys, if you have the opportunity, and this is me really not shilling or overhyping the OH10 and the OH10S. It's just me being realistic, because I actually caught up on the OH10 way after the train had left the train station. So people had been speaking about the OH10, not a lot, but some people had been speaking about the OH10 and how good it was and so on and so forth. And I kind of always had my doubts, and because of the price, and because of that price, you could have other IEMs which were already 1+2s and 1+4s and even 1+5s, and now even trihybrids and so on and so forth. I was saying to myself, I'm gonna spend that kind of money on a 1+1. Nah. And then finally, I said to myself, you know what? I actually found an OH10 on AliExpress at a good deal. If I'm not mistaken, I paid $110 for this unit, and I said to myself, you know what, I'm gonna buy it and see what the hype is about. And the truth is, it is a phenomenal IEM. It's one of my favorite IEMs without question. The 10S is very much the same thing. They've just changed slightly the faceplate. So when I have these two as my reference, as 1+1s, and I'm saying that you can get the same kind of magic, the same kind of vibe of everything that they are capable of doing, and you can get it in the form of either the ISN H20 or the HIDIZS MS2 Pro, guys, I'm saying it all. I don't need to elaborate further. All right. Anyway, let me just quickly show you the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay, guys, so let me show you the graphs here for the MS2 Pro. This first graph is the graph for the red nozzle, which is the one that actually comes on the IEM when you get it. And as I mentioned, as you can see, a nice amount of base energy. There's no real bleed into the mids. The 100 hertz point corresponds to 2 kilohertz, but the energy above that and the energy below are equally matched. The treble and the extension of the BA has been done in a manner where it's not there in the sense of you don't notice that there's an extra driver. Everything is very well matched. What you get in terms of information past 10K kind of matches the information that you have here in this trough of the lower mids. So what I can say is that, honestly, with this nozzle, this was the one that just satisfied me the most. The black nozzle reduces ever so slightly here the mids to upper mids, so maybe it can help out with a little bit of a higher volume listening, although truth be said, I didn't have any issues with listening to the MS2 Pro loud or at mid volumes. It always sounded balanced, everything always scaled very well, and again, that's a testament of a well-tuned IEM. And then finally the white nozzle, which is the one that boosts a little bit then that area there of the mids to upper mids and maintains the rest the same. So you just get a little bit extra detail, but even with this, it's never aggressive or harsh or anything of the sort. I just found it to, maybe because of virtue of preferring the red nozzle, I just found it with this nozzle, it just kind of sounded a little bit colored, okay, as compared to the original MS2. And let me just quickly put it here in red so that there's a bigger difference. Okay, so this is the original MS2. As you can see, they graph very, very similar. it's not really in the bass that you see the difference. It's up here that you notice audibly that there's a difference. So the BA is more noticeable definitely on the MS2, and yes, all twinklies and sparklies, but more colored, more fatiguing, and that coherence between the two drivers is not as well achieved. I assume that the 10.2mm driver used in the MS2 and the MS2 Pro are basically the same driver, but in the MS2 Pro it's an updated version of that driver. At least that's how they sound extremely equal, honestly. So I'm assuming this. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Anyway, so that's that. Now let me just put here the red version, the red nozzled version of the MS2 Pro. Okay, that's that version, and let's compare it then here with, for example, the H20. And the H20, let me make it in black so it stands out. And the H20, you look at the graph and you say to yourself, let me just quickly take out the MS2 Pro. You look at the graph and you say, oh my god, what a mess, this is not. No, you couldn't be more wrong. Excuse my English if it's not 100%. First of all, 100 hertz point, okay, corresponds to 2 kilohertz. But the way that these dips are actually, I'm not going to say smoothed out, but audibly, the way your brain interprets these dips is not as significant as you would think by what you see. And so ultimately what you get is a very continuous amount of sound here, and then starts to drop off. Definitely the extension of the BA matching the low mid to mid area, okay, which is always ideal. What this all then means is that you've got great bass, it's not overpowering as you might think, great vocals, so mids are clean, lush, it's got that organic feel to it. Be it the H20 or be it the MS2 Pro, they are two very musical IEMs which have great mid-range presentation, great mid-range presentation. And then the highs are done in a manner where you see a very good driver coherence. You don't notice the disparity between the two drivers. All right, so when I put here the MS2 Pro, yes, you might prefer the MS2 Pro visually as a graph and think, okay, but sonically, trust me, they sound very equal. And then compared to the beasts in terms of the 1+1, it's the OH10, as you can see here. I mean, I think the graph speaks for itself, and you can understand why I was saying that they sound so similar. Where the OH10 outshines the MS2 Pro is on the way that the treble is done. Yes, you notice that there's a significant more amount of detail up top, but maybe by virtue of the quality of the BA they used, or the quality of the actual DD driver as well, and how they matched it. All I can say is that yes, you notice there's more detail up top, but it's done as well in a manner which is proper. It makes sense. It's not aggressive. It's not. There's good driver excellent driver coherence. I get the perception that I'm listening to a single driver and not two drivers. Okay, and the same situation happens with the OH10S. Let me quickly just change the color here of the OH10S. Okay, and that's the OH10S. Actually, the OH10S and the OH10, you can see they are basically the same. Okay, but the OH10S, let's just leave it there, OH10S and the MS2 Pro. On the OH10S, I will say that the treble past 10K, or the extension past 10K, has been ever so slightly brought down as compared to the OH10. Ever so slightly. It's not a big thing. Very slightly. But it might please those that maybe can find that the extension past 10K and the OH10 could be considered colored to a certain extent. Again, compared with the MS2 Pro, they sound very equal. Yes, fine. The OH10S is ultimately the better IM, but it's also over twice the value, over twice the amount of money. So if you want to have the magic of that IEM, but you cannot afford to go that far, you don't have the financial capability of stretching yourself out that far, definitely MS2 Pro is a solid option. All right, So there you have it, guys. I hope I was able to thoroughly introduce the OH10, sorry, the OH10, the MS2 Pro to you guys. I think comparatively to other offerings from HIDIZS, in terms of hybrids, obviously, and I'm talking about the MS3 and the MS5, this is probably the most impressive apart from the MS5. The MS3, I wouldn't say the MS3 is substantially better than the MS2, to be honest. I really wouldn't. I think this is the better of those two. The MS5, it's got its own particular little niche. It's a phenomenal IEM that, once again, I think hasn't received the deserved attention. But it's a phenomenal OnePlus 4. Phenomenal. And that's it, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll do my best to answer as quickly as possible. You take care now. Bye bye.